Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most, audacious religious projects of the 20th century. A global mission not just to imagine heaven, but to physically build it right here on Earth.
Seriously, think about that for a second. This one question is the engine behind Reverend Sun Myung Moon and the Unification Church. And for them, this was not a metaphor. It was a literal, achievable goal, and they went all in to try and make it happen.
All right, so what do they actually mean by heaven on earth? If you're picturing clouds and pearly gates, well, you can forget all that. Their idea is way more grounded, and it all starts with a single core definition.
So if you look at their main book, The Divine Principle, which basically lays out their entire theology, heaven is a condition. It's a state of being where God's will is perfectly mirrored in everything, from our own personal lives all the way up to global politics. The whole point isn't to, die and go somewhere else. It's to completely transform the world we're living in right now.
Okay, so to really get why they're trying to build this heaven, you've got to understand the problem they think they're solving. Like, what went so wrong with the world in the first place? Right at the core of their entire belief system is this idea of a cosmic rupture. They believe the story of Adam and Eve wasn't just some parable. It was a literal event that completely severed humanity's connection to God. And that break is what created the world of conflict and pain we see all around us. And this is where things get really interesting, because this vision, it becomes an actual plan. They see all of human history as this long process to fix that original problem. And according to their timeline, we are right now in the restoration phase. This is a critical moment where humanity, us, has a job to do. Rebuild that connection and finally bring in the Messianic era, their heaven on earth. So how in the world do you fix a cosmic rupture? Well, their answer is surprisingly specific. It's not just about praying more. It's about this one super powerful central ritual, the mass wedding ceremony they call the blessing. And when I say mass wedding, the scale is just mind-blowing. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of couples from all over the world, gathering in ceremonies that filled entire stadiums. This was never some small side thing. This was the absolute heart of their entire mission. And the whole point of these massive events? It was all about creating the ideal God-centered family. They see that as the single most important building block for heaven. The thinking is, if you can heal the family, you can heal the whole world. Okay, so you've got this big theological idea, but how do you actually do it? Turns out building heaven takes a whole lot of planning. We're talking economics, politics, the whole shebang.
To pay for all this, they came up with what they call God-centered commerce. The idea is pretty simple, actually. A spiritual kingdom needs a physical foundation. So for them, wealth isn't evil. It's a tool you need to build a better world. And this led to a massive global business empire. I mean, everything from the Washington Times newspaper to huge industrial companies. And all that profit, it got funneled right back into their social and peace initiatives.
And you can see how this played out in the real world. Take some of their development projects in rural South Korea, for instance. The results they reported were pretty incredible. A 38% jump in household income and a 25% drop in crime in these villages. They chalked this up to their mix of giving people economic opportunities and spiritual guidance. And their political vision? Just as radical. They basically wanted to completely rethink how governments work. Forget the usual structures. They proposed this family model where nations would act like a functional family, based on ideas like stewardship, compassion, and growth. And through all their media work and humanitarian projects, they actually managed to move the needle on public opinion. Get this, back in 2002, only about 12% of Americans surveyed even knew about their humanitarian work. Fast forward to 2019, and that number more than doubled to 30%. That's a pretty significant shift. But, as you can probably guess, trying to build a global utopia, it hasn't exactly been a smooth ride. There have been some major challenges and a ton of controversy. Right from the beginning, the movement faced some really serious criticism. We're talking allegations of using high-pressure, cult-like tactics to recruit people, and questions about a lack of financial transparency in their massive business empire. Plus, there was a lot of scrutiny over, the ethics of mixing that much religious power with top-level political influence.
So, facing all this criticism, the organization started to make some changes from the inside. They launched this transparency initiative, which meant they started publishing annual reports, setting up independent ethics committees, and even rotating their leadership to stop any one person from having too much power.
All right, so with all that in mind, where does this group fit in with other movements trying to change the world? This chart really helps put it in perspective. You've got other faiths focusing on things like missionary work or personal spiritual growth. But what makes the Unification Church so different is this unique blend of mass marriage, big business, and political action all rolled into one. So what's the bottom line here? It's definitely not a simple story of they succeeded or they failed. On one hand, you can point to real measurable successes, things like helping families and economic aid. But on the other hand, they're still facing these huge challenges: transparency, internal disagreements, and just the incredible difficulty of making their vision work on a global scale.
In the end, the Unification Church's mission to build heaven on earth is a fascinating, really complex story. And it leaves us with this one big, thought-provoking question to chew on. When a faith builds a full-blown empire of business and politics, who's really getting the benefit? Is it humanity or the institution itself?